Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by ShopFutsal.com. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Simon Provan, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Baxter, how are you?
Oh, very well, actually. The Revolution got a win over the weekend. I am loving life, and all is well.
Baxter, I was going to say Brad.
You can call me Brad.
But Baxter, it's no secret that we are not doing these shows live.
Yes.
In that... we were pre-recording before we put them out there,
sure.
But we're recording this show as the UEFA Europa League final is going on between Sevilla and Liverpool. Sevilla, just as we went on air, scored a goal to tie things up 1-1.
Interesting. The second half literally just started.
Yes.
So they came right out the gate.
17 seconds into the second half.
Wow, left them unmarked in the middle of the box. Can't be doing that. Cannot be doing that.
Big game for them, because this year the winner of Europa League goes directly to next year's group stage of the Champions League, which is a beautiful move by UEFA to have done that. But I'm jumping the gun here, Baxter. I will let you get through the introductions.
No. You do what you got to do. If you'd like to take over, you can. You are more than welcome.
Hijacking the show, Simon Provan.
I love it. All right, now we've got a great show in store for you today. We'll be joined in our second segment by Mr. Soccer himself, Peter Wilt of Chicago NASL. He has some updates for us on the upcoming project that is the new expansion team in Chicago, so you're not going to want to miss that. Peter, just a great guy to chat with, a good friend of ours, but also a good friend of the show, and just a true gentleman in the soccer world as well.
Absolutely,
we love chatting with Peter. We've had him on the show before, so he's going to come on back and chat with us again.
Yeah, actually, he was here when we relaunched Two Up Front in this new capacity, with more of a national reach, so we will always appreciate that part of our relationship with him, but too that, anytime we say to him, hey, Peter, we'd love to have you on, his response is always, whenever you need a cast.
Yep, exactly. Give me a call. Let's set it up and make it happen. So he'll be on here in second segment. I've got an MLS All-Star ballot. Simon's going to help me figure it out. Hopefully we can figure out something that's going on with that, and we'll have a chat about that later on as well. Some NWSL coverage, as we always do on the show. Also, no player interview this week, but we've got some good ones brewing in the next coming weeks. A lot of teams traveling, a lot of teams just hard to get a hold of for media this week, which is totally understandable. Everybody has a life, Simon.
They do, except us.
Anyway, for those of you that enjoy us and feel bad for us, you can listen to us on Fridays on Sports Radio America from 2 to 5 Eastern Time. And you can get us on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com as well. You can go check out our website, 2upfrontsoccer.wix.com/2upfrontsoccer, and all kinds of other fun things, Simon.
Yeah, we're also on Facebook, obviously 2 Up Front. Just search for it and click on that. I'm sure you'll find us. We're also on Twitter, at 2UpFrontSoccer. He is at Baxter Colburn, and I am at Simon Provan. Very active this week. We've actually had a lot of people interact with us this week on Twitter, and we're actually going to respond to one of those.
We are. Here in our first segment, we have a barrage of quick things to get through here in this opening segment, something that we maybe might try to do a little bit more here going forward on the show. There's so many things that happen in the soccer world, especially within the last week, that we want to kind of get off and have a good chat about. So,
can we do this without being, our attention divided here between the show and actually checking in this Europa League final?
I know, because we've got it on split screen right now. As I've got my show notes here on the right side of my screen, we've got the Sevilla-Liverpool game on the left side, so hopefully we can focus on it. All right, here we go. Are you ready, Simon? We've got about 8 things to get through. One of them we've already kind of touched on, the Sevilla-Liverpool. Let's just start with that really fast. I know it's 1-1 right now. It'll be over by the time this airs. But even before coming into this game, a lot of folks really thought Liverpool had this wrapped up. And as you mentioned, some higher stakes for this year's Europa League final as well. Automatic qualification into the group stage of the Champions League. Do you like that move?
I love it. It brings some extra importance to this tournament because let's be honest here that the Europa League... It's kind of like the NIT of international soccer.
It is. At the end of the day, it really is.
Unless your club's playing in it, you really don't pay attention to it.
No, I honestly forgot it was still going on.
Well, there you go. But now with the winner going into Champions League, let me back up a little bit. Part of that is some leagues, especially Premier League sides, saw this as more of a, really, we got to be in this thing?
Europa League. It's still money.
It's still money.
Exposure. Your fans get to go see your teams a couple more times a year.
Right, but they wouldn't put their strongest squads out there because to them it wasn't worth anything.
Sure.
Okay, you win the Europa League. Woo, big deal.
Yeah, now what?
Yeah. So now it's, hey, you win the Europa League. You automatically, no matter where you finish in your league, you could be relegated and win the Europa League and still be in Champions League next year. So,
Liverpool didn't finish in a top spot in the Premier League, so this helps them out.
Yeah, this actually, they finished, what was it, 8th, perhaps?
I believe so. I think 8th or 9th, yeah.
So they can finish 8th or 9th or, anywhere below 6th and actually be in a better place than Manchester United finishing in 6th and having to play their way into the Europa League.
It's kind of crazy how some of that stuff works out at times, but as we mentioned, it's a tie game right now as we are doing the show. We'll see what happens. Clear handball in the box there. Anyway, so we're excited about that. Liverpool had my vote going into this game. What about you, Simon?
Yeah, let me be honest here. It's tough because we don't get much coverage in the States of Sevilla.
No.
It's all Premier League sides.
Exactly.
So I'm going to be honest and say I don't really know the strength of Sevilla. They love this tournament. I know that. They're in it almost every year.
They're very good at it every year, yeah.
But certainly with the way Liverpool has been covered, with the things Klopp has been saying about, I've talked to the men, we're ready to go, we've done everything we need to win this game. You would certainly expect a team like Liverpool to end up pulling the win out of this.
Exactly. All right, moving on from that, we'll stay in Europe for a moment. Steve Birnbaum, the DC United defender, rumored to maybe be on Borussia Dortmund's radar. What? Really? Come on, Steve. I mean, Steve is a very good player, but Steve is only in his second year in MLS. I feel like this is just a little too presumptuous. I know he's a young, talented, strong center defender, but being rumored to go to a guy like, Borussia Dortmund, I think this is a little too early for something like this to be going on.
Well, I don't know. DeAndre Yedlin ends up being picked up by Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, yes, DeAndre Yedlin also has, 440 speed, basically, though. It's ridiculous.
But that's before he went over. I don't want to say that's all he had, because obviously he had more skill than that.
Yes.
But all
he had, though, was speed. Let's be honest.
One of the problems with American soccer is that's the first thing, right? Somebody's tall, ooh, they got to be good. Somebody's fast, ooh, they got to be good. The skills part tends to be the second part of that equation, and it needs to be the first part. I got to say, since he went over to England, Yedlin has done some wonderful. Well, since he got not transferred, loaned to Sunderland.
He was one of the driving factors of them avoiding relegation.
Absolutely, and he proved Sam Alderweireld wrong, because Sam Alderweireld came out and said, "I'm not playing Yedlin. He doesn't have the experience in a relegation battle."
He became a solid right back starter for him.
Jones went down injured, so they had to put Yedlin in there, and he has not lost that position since.
Exactly.
So is this too far-fetched? I don't think it's too far-fetched.
We'll see what happens. I don't know. Steve Birnbaum, I've always liked the guy. I think he's a very talented player, but little early, I feel like, for some of these. But at the same accord, Dortmund did just lose Matis Hummels as well. He went to Bayern Munich, who, as we now get to transition into, along with Barcelona, have won their respective leagues, La Liga and the whatever that is, the German league, the Bundesliga.
The Bundesliga.
That's what it is. They've now won it for the 4th time in a row. I just feel like Bayern Munich, they're not challenged by anybody anymore. And same with Barcelona.
Not in Germany.
No, not in Germany, but the league at the end of the day is still very important.
It is very, of course it is.
It's still
Absolutely.
like even with teams like PSG as well. They won their league as well. Okay, great. Who else really gave them a run for their money, though?
Speaking of which, I posted this on our Facebook page, kind of jumping ship from our plan here, Baxter, but you got to feel for Bob Bradley.
Yeah.
His club, Le Havre, there in France, ends up in 4th place, which means they don't get promoted to Ligue 1. They missed it by a single goal. Missed
it by that much.
Missed it by that. Or actually, it may have been the head. I'd have to go back and look. But what it was kind of like the Confederations Cup with the U.S. when Bob Bradley was coaching. So Le Havre needed to win by 6 goals and have Metz lose, or it needed to win by at least 6 goals for that goal differential and not let Metz catch up on that. They won by 5. 5 goals, and they hit the woodwork about 4 times. I can't remember if they tied. I could look this up real quick, but we don't have time. They either tied on points, and then the first tiebreaker was head-to-head competition, or it was that they missed it out by 1 goal. So the miracle almost happened. Bob Bradley almost takes his team to one of the top leagues in Europe.
In Ligue 2, they are stuck in now for this next year. Another manager now that finds himself relegated, as it were, is Rafa Benitez. Will he stay at Newcastle, Simon? But this is almost our social media question of the week, basically, because we had a gentleman reach out to us.
Yeah, Sean Schwalbach on Twitter had said, I hope you guys discuss Rafa staying at Newcastle a bit on the next show. Baxter and I talked. We thought, hey, cool, you know what? This guy's reaching out to us, wants to hear about us. Well, what I'm going to tell you is this. There's not much to predict anymore because Rafa signed a contract with Newcastle United. He will be there.
Mm-hmm.
And all reports are saying that he's already preparing for next year, that the owner has given Rafa all power on all transfers.
Interesting. Well, Newcastle, I mean, you think that they're usually a staple in the Premier League. Now they're going to go hang out in the First Division there in the Championship. We'll see what they can do.
It's also not foreign to Newcastle. They've been in the Championship.
Yeah.
They've been up and down these last few years,
yes.
actually. But yeah, the owner, Mike Ashley, has given complete control to Rafa Benitez, and I think at this point, that's the best thing you can do.
Exactly.
And it's amazing to think a manager like Benitez coached at Real Madrid.
Mm-hmm. Now he's at Newcastle. He only got 10 games with them, so that experiment was a little hard because obviously you're like, well, you've got 10 games to avoid this team from relegation.
And he came close, though. He came close to keeping them up.
They missed it by 2 points.
Right.
I mean, Sunderland
missed it by that much.
Exactly.
To repeat a theme.
Seems to be a reoccurring theme. Well, one other thing that has taken place in Europe that might find its big nose or its big body moving over to America is Zlatan. There's rumors he might be coming to MLS. He only wants to play for the Galaxy, apparently, but as everybody knows, they have 3 DPs. Don Garber always has a shifty, crafty way of finally getting around the rules. Like, what do you mean? Everybody can have 4 DPs now. Oh, how great! But
well, let's.
Is it going to happen though?
I don't think it is.
No.
I think we'll see him either in Qatar or we'll see him in China or some other.
Manchester United
Asian.
is a rumor right now. They have a contract from, Zlatan has a contract from United. I believe it's a 1-year deal. But realistically, how many games is he going to play in a full year, though? But this is a guy that also scored 49 goals in Europe last year.
Right.
49! He's 34. That's crazy.
He's one of those guys where I don't think the age matters that much.
No, I don't think so.
And you know what? Let me ask you this, Baxter, because we actually never talked about this. Do you want him in MLS?
I think it would be fun. Would I think he'd make the league better if he continues to score the way he's been scoring? Well, absolutely. But it's one of those guys where it's almost a cult hero where I understand the whole retirement league talk and all that stuff. He's one of those guys that I don't care how old he is. He would be a fun guy. It would be a fun year or 2 maybe for MLS just to have a guy like him come over, mess around for a year or 2, score a bunch of goals, give some highlights. He's one of those guys where you make room for him on your team.
See, for me, I could see it going that way, but I'd be a little afraid that it'd be more frustrating than anything because let's admit it, he's got an enormous ego. He thinks he is God, basically.
Sure.
And there's people out there who think he's God.
Oh, absolutely.
My fear would be that would get in the way more than anything, that he wouldn't be as goofy on the field as he is now, because he'd be thinking he's better than the league.
Potentially, but why else would he consider a possible move here if he thought he was better than the league, though?
That's just it, because he's coming here to retire. And my fear, I don't want to say fear, that makes it sound like that my life is at stake on MLS. But my point is,
what is your point?
He'd come here to retire. He'd come here to retire and he'd play that way. He wouldn't play. Zlatan wouldn't play the way Zlatan plays.
I don't know. We'll have to see if it actually happens. Some other things we have to get to really fast before the end of the segment. Kai Kamara got traded to the New England Revolution. I did a quick little one-liner thing about this that we posted on Facebook a little while ago. I think it's a great move. We already saw that in the first game against the Chicago Fire. Very active.
This year.
For this year, yes.
Short term, it's a good move. Long term, I think the Revolution bet the house.
Revolution also don't spend any money on anybody.
That's
so
true.
At the same time, I don't really know if it's anything to be really worried about.
And even with this trade, they didn't really spend much money. They gave everything else. So they gave draft picks away. They gave allocation.
Well, I think they gave it was like officially. It was either $300,000 or $500,000. Tam Gam, man. Jam.
Okay. So is he not a DP then with New England?
No, he is a DP. He gave an international spot to Columbus as well too. Will it work out? I don't know. Right now, hopefully it does.
Yeah, and that's why I say short term, great move for New England. Long term, even a better move for Columbus.
We'll see. We'll see if Columbus uses it the way we'll see if they use all this allocation money accordingly now. So we'll see. All right, 2 other quick things to get to really fast. Giovanni Dos Santos tells Mexico no, he is not going to play in the Copa America. He said thanks, but no, I'm good. I'm going to continue to score and dominate MLS. You guys have fun doing everything else that you're going to do.
Yeah, I don't know if he's being a little petulant there because there were, a couple of times that he felt he should have been called up and he wasn't called up, and this was his way of saying, boo-boo. But how you pass up on a tournament like the Copa America?
I don't understand.
He's not the only one, though. There's other players that have been called up that have surprised people
But the form that he's in right now, mixed with the form that Chicharito's in right now, Mexico would have been fairly scary to deal with, you know? Last thing to really talk about for American soccer fans, Josie Altidore, he got hurt looking at a butterfly in a park. Now, he got hurt after trying to take a shot during a TFC game or after a penalty kick. He's now out. He will not be on the Copa America roster. Are you sad, Simon, or do you really not care?
I don't know. What I care about is the fact that Klinsmann comes out and says we will find a way to replace him. No, you don't go out and play a 4-5-3-1 anymore, whatever it is. You don't play a lone striker now. You play, perhaps you do a 4-4-2 and you have Wood and Dempsey up there together.
I'm fine with Bobby Wood. Give Bobby Wood an opportunity.
Right, but what I'm saying is you don't look to replace Altidore. You look at the guys you have and figure out the system that works with them.
Exactly. I agree. I absolutely agree. If you like anything that we just talked about, let us know. We said on Twitter, 2UpFront Soccer, on Facebook, 2UpFront as well, at Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan. We need to run to a break. When we come back, Peter Wilt is here to talk about expansion in Chicago and Chicago NASL. We'll be back with more on 2UpFront right after this. Welcome back to another edition of 2UpFront, presented by ShopFutsal.com. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, now we get to have a wonderful interview on the show, a man that we both know very well. We've chatted with him multiple times. He's known around the great state of Wisconsin and the Midwest as Mr. Soccer. He's a member of the Illinois Soccer Hall of Fame. If you've ever been to a Chicago Fire game, I'm sure you've heard the legends of the great Mr. Peter Wilt. And now he's back here on the program with us again. Peter, good afternoon, sir, and welcome back to 2UpFront.
Thank you very much, Bax. Simon, thanks for having me on.
Well, we are excited to have you back, Peter. And a couple months ago, we had you on the show. We were talking about your new project. After you decided the Chicago Fire wasn't enough, so you decided to bring another soccer team to the Chicago area. What updates do you have for us on Chicago NASL?
Well, it's a number of parallel paths that we keep pushing along. And I think we're making progress on all of them. Certainly the promotional efforts trying to get more people locally connected with the team, and that's going well. We're soliciting information from fans, find out what they want the team to be called, where they want the team to play, what they want the colors of the team to be, and they can give us their input on our website, which is ChicagoNASL.com. And then we're also lining up investors on a couple of different levels. The lead investors, we have two real good candidates that are ready to be on board. We have a number of minority strategic investors, and that process is moving very well. And then we have something that is somewhat unique to American soccer, and that's supporters investors. So a supporters trust. Creation of that really is unique in American soccer. It's more commonplace in Europe and Latin America. But we've been making progress with new legislation in the state of Illinois, and we hope to be able to roll it out in June.
Excellent. Well, one of the things that we were talking about off-air, Baxter and I, is we're looking through and seeing that originally the idea was to have a spring 2017 start, and of course NASL announced an expansion team in San Francisco, the Deltas. So spring 2017 season is just under 12 months from now. Is 2017 still looking like the start? Are you going to probably push that back a year, or what are your thoughts on that, Peter?
We could still hit 2017. We'll need a June or at latest a July approval. But the league owners are meeting in June, and their approval, I believe, is pretty much contingent on us solidifying a venue deal. So we continue to talk with a couple of major venues, including Soldier Field, and if we can move that along to the point where we have a memorandum of understanding signed, I believe that will be enough to get us approved by the NASL Board of Governors. And that gives us, a full 10 months to before we kick off. And when we started the Chicago Fire in 1998, we actually launched those efforts in July of 97. So we were able to do it with 9 months. And in a lot of ways, we already have our ramp started. When we launched the website several months ago, that was the beginning of creating interest in the team. So I don't have any worry that if we get league approval in June, we'll be able to launch in 2017. If it goes much longer than that, though, then you're right. We'll probably be looking at either a fall of 2017 start or spring of 2018.
And what do you see are the differences between prepping an MLS team for a season versus prepping an NASL season? I shouldn't say for a season. I mean for a launch.
It's not just a one-and-done kind of thing. Yeah.
There's a lot more commonalities than there are differences. And I think the differences may be, in comparing the Fire and the Chicago NASL effort, the differences are more due to the difference of time. I mean, we are about 19 years separating the two efforts, and it's a world of difference in the status of professional soccer in America now than it was 2 decades ago. So I don't think the difference is because of the league. I think the difference is because of the media that's available now versus 19 years ago, and also the audience. When we started the Chicago Fire, the number, or at least percentage of Chicagoans that were passionate and knowledgeable about soccer was a fraction of what there is now. And then, the medium was different. The internet was really just ramping up. Social media was virtually non-existent. And getting the word out was more a matter of using traditional, expensive media by way of buying television ads and full-page newspaper ads than it is now. So it's different tactics, different efforts, and different audiences.
Well, one thing I'm curious about, Peter, is we're talking here with Peter Wilt from Chicago NASL here on 2 Up Front. One thing I'm interested about is the 3 venues that you have at least listed right now. You've got Soldier Field, Wrigley Field, and U.S. Cellular Field. If the Chicago Fire are struggling to even fill their soccer-specific stadium, how do you guys plan to fill a bigger stadium than that, or at least be comparable to numbers to make sure that you're actually making enough money to, kind of even out your profits by trying to fill a bigger venue?
Yeah. Well, we really want to play in a major league venue. I think that's important to the credibility of the organization, of the team, and to become relevant with the fan base. So that does limit us. There's not an ideal venue capacity-wise in the city of Chicago, which is where we're committed to play. So that leaves us with 3 oversized venues, as you noted. There's a few ways to address it. One is by not trying to sell out the entire stadium. Like when we were with the Fire and playing at Soldier Field, the stadium can be downsized.
Sure,
You can
we see that with the Sounders, too. They do that a lot, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think in Soldier Field's case, we would first sell the east side and the south side. And you can create almost a false intimacy by grouping all the fans in one area. It doesn't eliminate that issue, but it minimizes it. Mm-hmm. It also cuts down on your expenses by only having to hire ushers and security and concession workers for certain parts of the venue. And we intend to fill as much of it as possible. I think there's been a real groundswell of support for this yet unnamed team, and I think we may surprise some naysayers when they see how many people really do come out to these games.
Peter, you just threw me a great softball for a question I want to ask you about. Speaking of attendance, one of the things that we saw in the NASL openers this season was quite a few of them were down, overall down by 37% league-wide. So one of the questions people have asked us about, or specifically me, and said, hey, if you get a chance, can you ever ask Peter this question? So I'm going to ask you, why the NASL over, for example, the USL? What's the thought process there?
It's a matter of ambition. The NASL wants to be a first division league. We're aiming for the highest heights. USL is a minor league. It's a development league. It's essentially a farm league. And that's fine. It's important. It serves an important role in American soccer to develop players. But that's not what the North American Soccer League is about, and that's not what the Chicago NASL team wants to be. We want to play at the highest levels. We want to be a first division team.
And that's I totally get that. One of the things I'm wondering about, I'd love to hear your thoughts on NASL chasing that Division I status, and in that respect, basically going after MLS a bit. Is that obviously you feel, with the team that you've got that you're looking to have down in Chicago, is that in the best interest of soccer in the U.S.? Is having two Division I leagues competing with each other ultimately a good thing for the game in this country?
Oh, yeah. I think in any business, competition is good. It improves. It allows the cream to rise to the top. It forces everyone to improve their product and to behave better. And in Chicago, I think our presence has already increased the passion that Chicago Fire fans have for their team. Fans who've been passive for the last half decade or so, once we announced our efforts, became more active and more passionate. And then on the field, I think once we get going and we put together a team that can compete with any team in this country, I think that's going to force other teams in other leagues to improve their rosters as well. It's not all that different than what the AFL and NFL went through in the 60s or what the ABA and the NBA went through in the 70s. And it's something that will be positive for the sport in this country.
Is this, with this team, Peter, is it possible to see kind of what we're seeing right now in LA or New York with the fact that they have two professional teams in the same league? Is that something that if MLS were to come to you guys at some point in the next 5 or 10 years and say, hey, we want to upgrade you guys to MLS instead of in this NASL district, is that something that might be a possibility?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Everyone assumes that 5-10 years from now, MLS is still going to be the better league of the two. There's nothing that's written that says the NASL will be the better league. There's no salary cap in the NASL. There's no collective bargaining agreement, so we can't have one. But the NASL has big ambition. And with the right broadcast agreements and the right ownership and the right management and the right stadium location, there's no reason the NASL in some or all markets can't be the bigger, better league. So maybe 5 or 10 years from now, there'll be some MLS owners saying, maybe we should be in that league.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. No, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I feel like sometimes the NASL is kind of swept under the rug, like, oh, that's cute. You guys do what you're going to do over there. But you never know. As you mentioned, this could be the quiet giant that's just, continuing to grow behind the scenes, and then in, a year or two.
Yeah, I know that sounds ridiculous right now. I apologize for cutting you off.
No.
You look at other sports. Baseball, when the American League started in 1901, it was the Rebel League. It was the Wildcat League that was taking on the old grandfather National League, which has been around for 25 years at that point.
They have a designated hitter in that league. It's so weird.
Yeah. And the American League ended up becoming the better league.
Yeah.
Certainly in the 1920s and 30s, the American League champions dominated the National League champion in the World Series. ABA and the NBA. When the two leagues finally merged, the year after they merged, the All-Star game was almost half ABA players. And there's no reason that, a decade from now, we can't see the same thing happening in American soccer.
Fair enough.
One thing's for sure, Peter, when these teams get up and running, when the Chicago NASL team gets up and running, that'll be a great Open Cup derby between your team and the Fire.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And the way they're grouping Open Cup. In fact, it's funny you should mention that. As we speak, I'm driving to Cincinnati for a second-round U.S. Open Cup game between FC Cincinnati and Indy 11 NPSL. And that David versus Goliath thing that we're going to see tonight, a fourth division team taking on a third division team, is the type of thing that makes that tournament so special. And in Chicago, since the two teams would be in two different leagues, the only time they would play against each other in meaningful competition would be in the U.S. Open Cup. And the way that U.S. Soccer groups opponents, they do it geographically. So very likely in most years, the two teams would play each other. And it would be a great rival, a great event. And I could see that may be one way that we would fill Soldier Field.
Absolutely.
All right, Peter. Well, good luck on the game tonight. I don't know if John Bush will be there to bail you guys out, though, against a fiery FC Cincinnati team. But have a safe trip, and thank you so much for taking some time here on Two Up Front with us today.
Thank you, guys. My pleasure.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Peter.
Peter Wilt, the new man in charge of the Chicago NASL project down in Chicago. Go and check out their website, chicagonasl.com. Cast your vote on their survey as well, and let them know your thoughts if you are in the Chicago area. We are going to run to a break if Simon doesn't mute me, and we'll talk about so much more when we come back on Two Up Front, right back after this. Welcome back inside the studio for another edition of Two Up Front, presented by ShopFutsal.com. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, time to jump into the NWSL and U.S. Women's National Team. Some exciting things coming out of both camps this week. The 26 women, I can't say man, I'm so used to saying 26-man roster. The 26-player roster has been named for the two-leg friendlies for Japan, for the June 2nd and June 5th camps, right before the Olympics as well. So Jill Ellis naming her gals. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But the NWSL this last weekend, some very interesting games that took place, to say the least. A couple draws, a couple wins.
Low scoring, though. Very low scoring weekend.
I feel so bad for Boston. They can't catch a break. They got an own goal to add insult to injury. They lost this week off of an own goal, and it allowed Sky Blue to continue to move on. So good for Sky Blue. They got a victory, 1-0 over Boston. But at the same time, Boston. Come on, guys, you can do it.
Yes,
they haven't even scored a goal this year.
Boston can't catch a break. Breakers.
Oh. He said it, not me.
I did.
Anyway.
But then you got Washington Spirit still undefeated.
Yeah, still undefeated. They took down the Houston Dash 1-0. Washington still the best team in the league at 4-0-1. They have 13 total points. They've scored 7 goals. Christine Nairn assisting the game-winning goal for Joanna Lohman on this one as well. Right place, right time for her. Just Washington continuing to just kind of bully teams around. They don't play beautiful soccer, really, from what I've watched, but at the same time, they get it done. They pass the ball well. They move the ball well. They've got great crosses, and no matter who seems to be on the field, a lot of things still continue to flow through Christine Nairn, and Joanna Lohman got a great goal, but as we all know, Crystal Dunn made a lot of opportunities and chances happen in this game as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and let's not forget the play of Ellie Krieger as well. I mean, she was really responsible for setting up that goal for the Spirit, but I'm really interested, Baxter, in this upcoming game this weekend. The Spirit play the Thorns. That's going to be the battle of the undefeateds.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that one. You do have to give credit, though, to Lydia Williams, though, of the Houston Dash. She came up with a ton of highlight reel saves in this game. Rachel Daly continued to try to push and took a couple long-range shots. We saw Becky get a few shots off as well. O'Sullivan. The ladies really did push as hard as they could in this one for the Houston Dash, but unfortunately just didn't quite bend their way for them this week. FC Kansas City and Chicago Red Stars, that was an interesting game. Those two teams drew 0-0 after Christian Press has found a way the last couple weeks to score crazy goals.
Right.
FC Kansas City finally put a silencer on Press for at least a little bit, and the Red Stars attack as a whole, which, as I've mentioned multiple times, and I believe you have as well, Simon, that you look at this Chicago team, you take Press away, they really don't have that many other exciting attacking options.
No, they don't, which is why it's so important to have a goalkeeper like Alyssa Nair, who turned in, another 5 saves, another huge performance for Chicago. So, yeah, Chicago continues to search for that out-and-out striker, but until you do, you need to have a strong defense, and that's what Chicago has.
Exactly, yeah. Another big win over this weekend, the Orlando Pride. They got a much-needed win over the Western New York Flash, but credit to Western New York Flash, though. This is a 1-0 victory for the Orlando Pride, but Western New York Flash, offensively, they moved the ball well, they stepped well, they really pushed Orlando, but Alex Morgan literally had to go through 3 players to score a chip goal, which the keeper should not have been off her line that far. However, she still did a world-class thing as a world-class athlete, and she scored a beautiful world-class goal.
She did. And actually, I wouldn't fault D'Angelo too much for being out where she was. The ball was up midfield, and the Pride quickly turned it around. Actually, this would be one of those rare instances where I would give the player of the match title to the goalkeeper for Western New York Flash, even though they lost. Because that game could have easily been 5-0, but Sabrina D'Angelo, again, the goalkeeper for Western New York Flash, put in a superstar performance that kept that game at 1-0.
I agree. So the game of the week, Simon, that a lot of folks had their eyes on, it was the Seattle Reign taking on the Portland Thorns. 1-1 is how it finally ends. After all the dust settled, after everything took place, and we end up with a draw, so the Cascadia teams have to settle for neither of them being better than the next.
And I'll tell you what, the first 45 minutes, it was a bit of a snooze fest until about the last 5 minutes of the first half.
As sometimes happens,
right?
Yes.
But second half starts within the first 2 minutes, Portland scores. Then 3 minutes later, Seattle scores. Now, unfortunately, the story of this game, Baxter, with this great rivalry was the referee. I had it up here on my screen, but the ref was atrocious. Let's just put it that way. The ref was so bad, Seattle actually had this in their press release for a few hours.
And I saw that because I saw the backlash on Twitter as well,
yes.
And people were kind of insulting, basically saying, I remember when Seattle was a classy organization, it insulted the ref in their press release, basically, and things like that. I'm like, that's something you just don't do.
For the folks who haven't heard, this is the direct quote from the Seattle Reign press release. Game ended 1-1.
Yeah.
Both teams got yellow cards.
Sure.
The referee. This is Seattle saying this. The referee apparently suffered from a strange form of paralysis that prevented him from pulling a yellow card from his pocket until late in the game, despite a plethora of bodies in blue that littered the field.
That is absolutely horribly unprofessional.
Seattle, I agree.
Stop.
Yeah, if you're going to comment on...
There's no reason you do that.
Listen,
you do not take a shot as an organization at a referee in a press release.
In a press release. Yeah,
after
the game, in the heat of the moment, absolutely.
That's something
words
a
are going to be said.
player or a coach should have said maybe in
an
interview. That's not something as an organization you do.
Well, they did get fined an undisclosed amount. And
yes.
I wish the leagues would publish what these teams are getting
an undisclosed
fined.
amount. They got fined a Snickers bar and a Diet Coke. Oh, great. So sorry, ref.
But yeah, it's you can't sit there and say, "Hey, that ref is horrible," and then go out and do something like that because now you've made yourself just as bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Hope Solo's their goalie, so maybe she was, driving. Anyway, no, there was an interesting happening on the field though for that first goal though too, because Solo and Lindsey Horn kind of collided there at that bit that allowed Portland to get on the board early too. So you could definitely see, and it's something to keep an eye on as a women's national team fan. Hope Solo hasn't been playing top soccer, but Alyssa Nair has been. Now the other ladies, Ashlyn Harris has been playing good as well. Will Hope Solo be the starter in Rio? I don't know. Something to keep an eye on that one. So this upcoming week of action, the Houston Dash take on the Orlando Pride. Western New York Flash, Sky Blue FC. Portland takes on Washington, as Simon mentioned. Boston takes on Kansas City. And Seattle takes on Chicago. Some fun games. Simon, which ones are you going to be keeping an eye on this weekend?
Let's see here, Baxter. I always like to watch the Thorns, and especially with playing the Washington Spirit again, that game of the undefeats.
Yes.
Undefeats. I don't know what undefeats are.
The footers, the feeters, yes.
Or feet that wear underwear?
The
I don't know.
The feet.
I don't know. Anyways, that's definitely the game I will be keeping my eye on. Let's see if there's another one I'd throw in there. I think it's fun to watch the Pride play. They're kind of like the counterpart in MLS. Mm-hmm. They got a fun way of playing the game, so I'll probably pay attention to that Houston Dash Orlando Pride game as well.
That's definitely a game I'm going to be keeping an eye on, as you mentioned, that Portland Spirit game as well. Keep an eye on that Seattle and Chicago game as well. That Sunday evening thriller. I mean, also you just want to keep a half an eye on the Boston game as well. Will they finally score a goal? at minimum, will they finally score a goal, or will they finally get a victory? I mean, FC Kansas City's been struggling. Maybe.
This could be it.
This could be the week for it.
Do we want to do some quick picks? I know we're running short on time here.
Yes, absolutely.
We had
moved out of it as soon as you said it. Yes, really fast for the predictions. Houston and Orlando, what do you think?
I'm going with Orlando.
Okay, interesting. I am actually going to call a draw on this one. I think Alex Morgan's going to finally get bottled up, and Houston is going to be able to shut her down at least a little bit. New York and Sky Blue.
Sky Blue deserves to win a game here.
I agree.
I'm going to go with Sky Blue.
Okay, I agree, but I'm going to pick Western New York Flash on this one. I think that the way that they played their last game has a good indication that they could win this game. Portland and Washington.
Ooh, this is a tough one. It's at home. It's for Portland and Baxter, I'm going to do the dreaded draw.
Yeah, pick a draw. Do what you always do. Washington's going to win this game. Boston and FC Kansas City. Kansas City's going to find a way to win. I'm sorry, Boston. It's just not going to happen this week. Going with
I'm sorry. That was my yes.
Sorry, you said it as I was saying it, so I didn't hear you. I was like, wait, what? What are you doing? And then Seattle and Chicago, a fun Sunday night thriller. Seattle's going to get a victory in this one.
I'm actually going to take Chicago on this one.
Okay.
I want to see the Red Stars win this. I shouldn't say I want to see the Red Stars, but it'd be nice to see an away team win.
Sure. No, fair enough. I understand that, so far in NWSL, it's been very difficult for the away teams to come through with a victory. Briefly here, really fast, as we're running out of time here in this segment, the 25-player roster that Jill Ellis has named. Here are the ladies for you at the goalkeepers: Adriana Franch, Ashlyn Harris, Alyssa Nair, and Hope Solo. Franch probably is not going to make it through. She is the Portland goalkeeper, but I don't know if she's going to be able to keep up with those three other big names ahead of her.
She's been playing well, though. I will say that.
She has. Defenders, you've got Engen, Hinkie, Johnston, Klingenberg, Krieger, Lewandowski, O'Hara, and my phone's going off, Christine Rampone, Sauerburn, and Emily Sonnet. A very talented group of gals through there. Allie Krieger, I'm sure, Klingenberg, Julie Johnston, a lot of the typical
We'll see a lot of the regulars
gals will be there. Morgan Bryan, Tobin Heath, Lindsay Horn, Rose Lavelle from Wisconsin, Allie Long, Sam Mewis, and Heather O'Reilly round out the midfield.
Yeah, Sam Mewis, who we had on this show a few weeks ago.
And then finally, for the forwards, Crystal Dunn, Alex Morgan, Kristen Press, and Mallory Pugh will round out the forward aspect of things. If I had to cut one, probably have to cut Mallory Pugh, unfortunately, just because the other three are just playing just a little bit better.
I tell you what, though, Baxter,
Mallory Pugh's not even in the league yet.
Listen, you rattle off those names, and you just think, how can they not win gold this summer if they go and play?
There's no reason that they won't win gold, honestly. I would be dumbfounded on it. If they're not in the final, at least. I'll be dumbfounded if they don't make it to the final. Gold depends on who it is. If they play France, that's another story. If they play Germany, it's another story. But
even England's still looking good, too.
England, the Lionesses, we'll see what they can bring out for it. All right, we got to run to a break. Much more to get to when we come back. Time for some MLS All-Star voting when we get back. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by ShopFutsal.com. Welcome back inside the studio for another edition of Two Up Front, presented by ShopFutsal.com. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, let's take a look at the All-Stars. The beautiful, wonderful All-Star game hanging out in Avaya Stadium in San Jose.
Which, Baxter, I am officially going to.
I know you
I'm
are.
Very excited.
Congratulations. I'm excited for you.
Not that I'm playing in the game, but yeah.
Congratulations on the voting. I know you campaigned a lot for those votes, so congratulations on that one. Well, we wanted to share the media ballot that we are using to cast and give you some of the highlights from each team that we're picking, regardless of how painful it might be for certain teams. So let's run through this here. Simon, we'll start with Chicago Fire and work our way through.
Just to be clear, we needed to pick 8 players from each team regardless. So this is very, very open round of voting.
So we just want to give you, though, just a brief rundown of some of the players on each team that we voted for. For the Chicago Fire, the only name that really jumped out at me was Kennedy Igboananike. I think he's done a fantastic job this year. We saw him score that beautiful goal against Vancouver earlier this week as well, so I think he very much deserves, among others, to be here.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is Matt Lampson actually doesn't get enough credit. Chicago's been losing a lot, but they haven't been scored upon a lot. They're
True.
actually one of the lower teams with goals against.
That is true. So congratulations to them on that one. The Chicago Fire in the books. Colorado Rapids. I mean, what can you really say? Zach McMath, he's playing well. Jermaine Jones, Marco Papa. Everybody else? I mean,
Gosh, he's been doing well.
Yeah.
McMath, you got a feel for the guy because you know when Howard comes in, Howard's going to goal. And McMath really is one of the two best keepers in the league this year, him and Ousted.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I would absolutely agree with you on that one. Over to the Columbus Crew. Steve Clark for sure getting a vote. You look at some of the defenders, Harrison Afful or however he is. He's been very good this year. Waylon Francis, Marco Parkhurst. And then that midfield that's loaded with really good players. Ethan Finley, Higuain, Justin Merrim, Will Trapp. Kai Kamara's gone.
Kamara's gone, right.
No longer
exactly.
there. Ola Kamara is not going to get a vote, sorry. So that's kind of all we got for them. DC United, a very interesting team. Travis Wara getting our vote from the goalkeeper side of things. Despite some of the injuries, Bill Hamid being gone, Andrew Dykstra has played a little bit too. He's been hurt.
Yeah, but I think the player you highlight here is Lamar Nagel.
Yes.
He's been and that's the odd thing. There's been some DC United players actually playing really well this year. They're just not seeing it come to fruition in results.
Exactly. Fabian Espindola is one of those, along with Alvaro Sabarillo as well. So two good guys to keep an eye on the rest of the way. FC Dallas, Chris Seitz gets our vote in the goalkeeper spot. Walker Zimmerman, Ryan Hollinshead, two very young, talented defenders that are continuing to make a big impact for their club.
Yeah, and then up top, Rudy Maximilano. I'm sorry. the other way around. See, he's gone from Portland for half a year, and already I forgot how to say his name.
Old news.
No, Rudy, he's been playing fantastic for FC Dallas. Stepped in there, became a starter quickly, scored quite a few goals in the beginning of the season. Hasn't been as hot this part of the season, but he's doing what he did at Portland, still scoring goals.
Yes, indeed. Over to the Houston Dynamo. Giles Barnes, I think, is a guy that needs to be talked about immediately, along with Andrew Wenger as well. Aside from that, I mean, the midfield has been kind of held together by Ricardo Clark and Alex as well. Defensively, they've struggled this year, Simon. They really have. But you still got to vote for a couple guys, so we gave some votes to DeMarcus Beasley and David Horst as well.
Yes.
All right. Sporting Kansas City, what do you think about this team? You found an interesting conundrum about one of the gentlemen on this team that he's good, but he's not, but he is.
Yeah, that's Dom Dwyer. He scores goals here or there, but he just has not been as hot as he has been in seasons past, and he's actually not playing like an all-star should be playing. So I wonder if when the final voting comes around, if we'll see Dom Dwyer in there or not.
He's one of those names, though, that you just kind of assume that you will see him.
Yeah, and let's face it, an all-star game, a lot of it is a popularity contest, and that's one of the unfortunate things about it. But at the same time, it's still kind of fun to see these guys playing against these top-level teams.
Exactly. Arsenal, the opponent this year, if you did not know that. All right, over to the LA Galaxy, a team riddled with stars, as we know. Zardes gets one of our votes. Giovanni Dos Santos, without a question. He's played lights out this season, so congratulations to him. We did make a case, though, for Sebastian Legit, Simon.
We did.
You especially were pushing for him.
Yeah, he's been playing very strong, and actually, I believe he's been in the league now for 2 years. He came over from the Premier League where he wasn't really playing.
Yep.
People didn't know how he would be in this league. He had a strong season last year. He's having a very strong season this year as well. So I think it's when we get to vote for 8 players, he's definitely, for me, one of those top players for the LA Galaxy.
I would agree with you on that one. Okay, Montreal Impact time now. Ignacio Piatti really needs to be number one among all voters, I feel like. Between him and Diego Valeri and Sebastian Giovinco, I think those three guys are going to really run the voting overall with the guys that have played so well all season long.
Yeah, of course, the thing that's going to be hurting Valeri is this 3-game losing streak by Portland.
Yes.
But yeah, Piatti on fire, absolutely. Gio, I think, will get the most votes overall. If he doesn't, that's a little concerned. Unless it's Dos Santos, because you could make an argument for him also getting the most votes at this time.
MVP race at this time, too. We also threw a vote for Dominic Odoro as well. He's played well recently.
He has.
And I think he certainly deserves a call-up to the All-Star game. All right, for the New England Revolution, Bobby Shuttleworth, as we've mentioned a couple times on the show. Chris Tierney, one of the best crossers. He's been called the best crosser in MLS by many people, especially those that know a few more things than we do. Lee Wynn, we actually voted for Kai Kamara as a whole, not necessarily because he's on the Revolution. He's only played for a game, but as a whole, we voted for Kai Kamara because as a season-wide, he's done well.
Well, and you look at the forwards for New England. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries as well through this season.
Juan Agudelo especially. You happen to stop talking as soon as I coughed. Thank you. It's like, good, I can cover this. Never mind. Anyway, NYCFC, interesting because they're playing well. They're doing very well
They're
right now.
playing fantastic right now.
David Villa obviously needs the biggest vote out of anybody, I feel like.
On this, and I would make the same argument for McNamara. He's been a nice, pleasant surprise for NYCFC. He's keeping that midfield together, and he's one of the reasons that Villa's playing so well up top.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. The other New York team, the Red Bulls, Luis Robles, a very solid, talented goalkeeper, as we all know. Then the midfield is where it gets fun. Guys like Sasha Kleshton, Dax McCarty. Bradley Wright Phillips seems to have kind of found his scoring niche recently, but at the same time, this is still a team that, as we'll talk about in our next segment, still lost to DC United 2-0 when all the stars were on the field, Simon.
Yeah, NYRB is a bit of a conundrum.
How do you solve a problem like the Red Bulls?
I like that. That's good.
Exactly. Orlando City. Well, Kyle Laren's playing well. Kevin Molino, they're doing
playing
well.
very well.
Breck
Yeah.
Shea defensively is doing well. No, he does not need a national team call-up. Everybody calm down.
Their captain in the midfield, though, as well. Why am I
Kaká?
I see your list here. No, Kaká is actually not the captain.
Adrian Winter?
The captain is, where the heck is it? Keep talking, Baxter.
I don't really know what you want me to say at this point. Like we mentioned, Molino, Kyle Laren, Rafael Ramos, Sebastian Hines we voted for, Joe Bendik as well. Are you thinking of the same team of what we're looking at right now?
Maybe I'm not. Sarin, actually. We should have put in a vote in there for Sarin.
Oh, Darwin Sarin, we can
he's
unvote
the
somebody.
captain of the team, and I think he's been playing very well this season as well. But who would you take out? Winter.
Yeah.
Take out Winter and give it to Sarin.
Okay, I'll swap my vote.
And now I know we've got some Orlando fan listening in going, "Why are you crazy?"
Yeah, they'll get over it. Philadelphia Union. Well, Chris Pontius has really done a fantastic job. Sebastian Letou, CJ Sapong, the big guys for this team.
There you go.
Really.
You nailed it. That's
Exactly. We voted for other
Nailed
people,
it.
too. Exactly. The Timbers, Simon, what do we got?
We got Adam Kwarcy, even though he's been injured. Gleason had a couple of great games, but I think teams are starting to figure him out. And I think he's actually playing a little bit in his head as well. Of course, you got Diego Valeri, Diego Chara, so the Diegos both get our vote.
Go Diego,
Fernando Adi still on the top of the scoring charts there, and Darlington Nagbe as well. So kind of the names you'd expect from the Timbers.
Exactly. All right, moving on to RSL. Yao Plata really highlights this whole voting process as a whole. Javier Morales has done very good as well, among others, on this team. San Jose, the host team, they've done a very good job. David Bingham, they just got a 3-1 victory over the weekend, as well, as we'll talk about shortly. Quincy Amarikwa, Chris Wondolowski, besides Simon not wanting to say anything good about him, has played well recently and does deserve. You don't like to say anything good about Chris.
Yes, I do.
Don't lie.
I've said before he plays very well in MLS, but he doesn't belong in the national team.
All right. Seattle. The Seattle Sounders. Not much you can really say. Jordan Morris, I think, certainly deserves credit for what he's done. Clint Dempsey has scored a few goals.
Yeah,
Alonso.
I think we're going to be honest. We gave him a vote because we had to give 8 votes.
Exactly.
But I think actually the person who gets the most credit for Seattle's season is Chad Marshall.
Agreed. I'd agree with you on that one.
Both in the front and the back.
Exactly. He's been scoring all over the place. All right, Toronto. Giovinco obviously deserves the
we gave him a vote?
brightest vote. I know. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to spring that one on you. Marky Delgado has played really well. Bradley, Will Johnson. Some good midfield play from all of them overall. And then the Vancouver Whitecaps, Simon. What do we got for them?
Well, we think they have the starting all-star goalkeeper in David Ousted.
Yes. Yep.
Of course, Jordan Harvey in defense has been one of the best backs in the league this year as well. So, got all other names in there for the Whitecaps, but those two guys top the list for us.
Absolutely. All right, let us know your thoughts about who we voted for. Remember, on Facebook, 2UpFront, and on Twitter as well, at Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan, at 2UpFront Soccer. When we come back, let's take a look at what happened in the crazy week of MLS and offer some predictions as well going forward. You're listening to 2UpFront, presented by ShopFutsal.com. Welcome back to another edition of 2UpFront, presented by ShopFutsal.com. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, let's do some predicting. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, let's predict. Well, before we get to that, though, let's look back. That allowed us to predict.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't that be the smart thing to do? The right thing? The morally obligated thing to do?
Sure.
So the last week in MLS, Simon, was very interesting for a lot of different reasons. You went 7-7 in our predictions. I went 5-9, I do believe. I think that's mathematically how it worked out to be. It was 5-9 for me. Yes,
so
5-9.
Jumped a game ahead of you in the overall standings, I believe, with a killer record, right?
Yes, you're 41-75. I am 40-74. Does that make sense?
No.
It does not make sense.
No, you'd be 40-76.
That's right. I was like, that doesn't seem right.
I understand the need to try to give yourself an
Thank
extra.
you. I have that
I gotcha.
liberal arts education, private school. Best 6 years of my life. All right. So, interesting games on a lot of different facets, a lot of different fronts, I would say. Would you not?
Sure.
Sure? You're just agreeing with me? I'm just throwing out words now. You're just like, sure. Well, we don't need to go through every single game just because some games were a little boring. But let's talk about that Philly-LA game, honestly, because that certainly surprised a couple people. That Philly came out 3 minutes out of the gate and was like, hey, LA, guess what? We're going to score. And they did. And people were like, what? And even me watching, I was like, what? And then LA was like, all right, enough of this. And then Robbie Rogers and Mike McGee were like, goal, goal. Either way, though, a 2-2 draw.
Yeah.
In Philly. Proper result?
Well, I think that's what I predicted.
I believe you're right.
And
yes.
I think it is a fair result because Philly's playing at home. They're still not the strongest of teams. They've been playing well, though. They didn't have too much of a changeover from last year. L.A. obviously is playing hot, but it was interesting to see L.A. go up against a more formidable opponent than they have been.
And they struggled a little bit.
Congratulations, by the way, to King and Rosenberry, who scored that first goal for Philly. That was also his first MLS goal ever.
Wow, good for him. So a 2-2 draw finishes there. These are the Wednesday night games. Colorado took down Sporting Kansas City 1-0.
No surprise.
Not really, no. FC Dallas, our boy. We just talked to him. Walker Zimmerman getting a goal. He got me 18 fantasy points this last week.
Baxter, it's a continued tradition that whoever comes on the show goes out and plays an awesome game. We did an interview with Kyle Gregg of the Vancouver Whitecaps 2. Yep. He's leading that league in scoring right now.
He is dominating USL. Come on our show, people, if you want to score goals. Oh, my goodness. The FC Dallas beat Portland 2-1. Good for them.
Deservedly so. I hate to say it, obviously, since I'm a Timbers fan, but Timbers are not looking good right now.
I would agree with you on that one. One game that was interesting, though, that I thought was interesting, Vancouver beating Chicago 2-1. Chicago actually looked very much in charge almost this entire game.
They did.
Kennedy Igbananike scored a beautiful little samba dance goal to the near post, beat David Ousted, and Chicago actually controlled most of this game, but Vancouver, they put away goals at the crucial times.
That seems to be Chicago's stories for years, though, that they go out there. I mean, we saw them beat New York Red Bulls last season and then come out and lay an egg the next game. So it's bewildering if you're a Fire fan.
Agreed. One thing to be interesting to keep an eye on, though, with this, Vancouver had to play 2 games this week. Chicago, that was their only game. Or the second, they had to play 2 games as well this week. So you thought maybe they were saving things for later in the week. Vancouver, we'll get to their game in a minute, same with Chicago as well, too. San Jose, they put a fairly good beatdown on Houston. In this one, David Bingham coming up with some very big saves as well, but some interesting midfield play for the Earthquakes that allowed them to pull away from a 3-1 victory.
Yeah, in fact, the first half, we got an early goal there from Alberto Quintero in the 3rd minute, and you thought it was going to be a barnstorm of a game, but it got kind of slow. Then in the second half, my goodness, you see 3 goals, 43rd minute, 50th minute, 70th minute. You're looking at a game that you thought was going to end as a draw, but then, again, Alberto Quintero comes in at the 70th minute, scores that 3rd goal. Anibal Godoy scores the go-ahead goal for San Jose.
And I really have to give credit, though, to Chris Wondolowski on that last goal, though. He had made a great run down the right side, and he whipped a beautiful ball in right across the face of the goalkeeper, couldn't get to it, and he had Quintero back post, knocked it in. All really, though, coming from that run from him. Probably the game that surprised me most this week was the DC United manhandling of the New York Red Bulls. They won 2-0, and they did it. Then if you go back and you watch these goals, you watch the highlights, there were just some gorgeous passes that allowed these goals to happen, honestly. Especially, I believe it was the first goal, the through ball that got played through to Marcelo Sarvas, sent it right back across the face of goal that allowed, I do believe it was a Spindola, I believe, to score. It was a Spindola or Sabarillo. I think they both scored in this game, so I forget which one scored first. But whoever scored that first goal, Sabarillo scored first, that's right. But a beautiful, unselfish play from him, slotted it back across, unmarked, knocked it home. DC United, against a, on paper, very good Red Bulls team, took them to work and made them look very bad in this one.
Yeah, actually, I'll be honest with you, Baxter. I didn't get a chance to watch this, but just seeing the final scoreline was a bit of a surprise. And kudos to DC United getting that 2-0 win in that Atlantic Cup derby.
Yes, indeed. And people were saying, "You don't think this is a rivalry?" No, this is a rivalry. DC and the Red Bulls. This is a big rivalry.
Yeah, and Mr. Alexi Lalas. Now I know he's trying to sell the league and sell the upcoming games, but
Sure.
to say that the Red Bulls NYCFC is the best rivalry in MLS right now, give me a break.
Oh, stop, Alexi. It's like you never played in the league or cut your hair in your life. Anyway, Montreal and Philadelphia, they tied on Saturday 1-1, similar to the Columbus Crew and Colorado Rapids. Two interesting 1-1 draws, and this one, Colorado, Pablo Mascherani coming out afterwards, the head coach, saying it was a good result against a Columbus team that is no longer Kai Kamara-ish full.
Yeah, well, you're traveling. You're going to the Eastern Division game, and Colorado they're looking to get points on the road. And for Philadelphia to end the weekend, 2 games, getting a point out of each.
Yep.
Granted, one was at home, but that was against the LA Galaxy. This other one on the road against Montreal. That's a lot of travel. And to finish the weekend with 2 points, that says a lot about Philadelphia.
Exactly. Yeah, great job for Philadelphia, really holding tight. The New England Revolution get a very needed victory against the Chicago Fire. Lee Wynn scores a goal, and Femi, the rookie, he set up perfectly, nodded home the header. Kai Kamara also made his debut. He just sprayed the Chicago Fire goal mount with shots all night long. Didn't find the back of the net, but you could see the connection early between him and Lee Wynn and the midfield, and it really looked interesting. Another thing to keep in mind, Kellen Rowe, a midfielder, played right back in this game as well because of all these injuries as well. And folks after the game were saying, well, maybe there's an option.
Call him up.
Sign him up. He's the best right back we've got. No, that's not what people were saying. But the Revolution get a very much-needed victory. The Chicago Fire, taken to the cleaners, really, in this one, couldn't keep up with what the Revolution midfield, when it's on, is the best, I argue, in Major League Soccer. Now, one game that really had folks going crazy with, and I watched the highlights of this game, I watched some of this game as well, and before we even get to the scoreline, the atmosphere of this game, though, I thought was incredible.
Yeah, I tell you what, Toronto FC was really the first team in this league to actually have a culture of soccer in their stadium.
Yeah,
for folks who don't remember this. So that is spread through the league with Seattle, with Portland, even with Sporting Kansas City. It all really, a lot of it began with TFC. But this game, I tell you, like you're saying, the atmosphere was just, the Whitecap fans were amazing, the TFC fans were amazing, and then you do add in that 4-3 scoreline. Baxter, once again, I got burned in fantasy because I didn't captain Giovinco. I captained Adi thinking, hey, he's got a double week. They're playing some weaker teams.
I mean, on that, I understand from that perspective.
But this just goes to show I will never uncaptain Giovinco ever again in my life.
He has been involved in every single Toronto FC goal this year, whether he scored it or assisted it. Every single goal has come
you look
through
at
him.
This last weekend, 2 goals and an assist. And how many goals did Toronto have? 3.
Mm-hmm. But credit to the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yes.
Kekuta Mane, 2 goals and an assist from him this week. He won MLS Player of the Week as well. That's the Kekuta Mane people were talking about before the season started.
Absolutely.
And he's been fairly quiet most of the year, and now he just came out and went, hey guys, I'm here, and just absolutely embarrassed the Toronto backline multiple times in this one.
Hopefully he can carry it through.
Yes, exactly. FC Dallas taking on Seattle. They beat them 2-0, FC Dallas. We had talked to Walker Zimmerman a couple of shows ago and asked him, said, hey, you got to play Portland, you got to play Seattle. Teams like this are hard to beat. And still, they were, but both of these games were at home, though.
Yeah, well, and Portland was, which game are we talking about right now?
Seattle, Dallas. Portland was the first game. Seattle was the second game.
Sorry, I'm a Portland fan, so of course I hear Seattle, I'm going to think Portland.
Like, boo.
No, but what I was going to say about that Portland game is Portland was actually dominating that game, and then Zimmerman got that header goal, and the tide just completely changed.
Same thing here, though. FC Dallas, they ran play. They scored in the 3rd minute. They scored in the 80th minute. Mauro Diaz got a penalty kick. Miguel Barrios assisted off of Mario Rosales.
Yeah, and who was responsible for that PK getting called? Walker Zimmerman.
Mm-hmm.
He ran down into the box, and Chad Marshall took him down.
18 points this week, Walker. Thank you so much, sir. I muchly appreciate you. All right, so the final 3 games that took place on Sunday, Houston took down RSL. A little bit of a surprise-ish, considering how poorly Houston's played, and RSL, though, hasn't been that great on the same course.
Yeah, the thing is, RSL had been winning games, but not by much.
Yes.
So to me, this wasn't too much of a surprise, other than that Houston actually got a result.
That is true. Sporting Kansas City beat Orlando 2-1. I've never heard a commentator more excited for a team to finally score a goal.
Right.
And that was the first thing after Dwyer scored the goal. The commentators were saying, finally! It's finally happened. The drought is over. They have scored a goal. And they finally got a victory, too, which was so needed if you're Sporting Kansas City.
It is, and what's interesting about this is almost the battle of the unknowns. You never know what you're going to get with Orlando. You never know what you're going to get with Sporting KC. So it was a very fitting scoreline.
It really was. I do agree with you. But perhaps, Simon, the game, aside from that Toronto-Vancouver game that had everybody buzzing from a scoreline, you look at NYCFC in Portland. Perhaps the biggest upset of the week, I would argue.
You could argue that at the same time, as much as I said New York City should have not fired Kreis, Vieira, he's got his team on a 3-game win streak. Portland's on a 3-game losing streak. So was it really that much of an upset? I think anytime you beat the MLS Cup champion, you can make that argument.
That's why I think people are a little bit more...
But we saw this last year from Portland. They start out slow, but I'm telling you, I'm still worried about this team. I texted you right after the game, 2 words: fire Porter.
Yep, first one of the year too.
It was only the first one.
First one of the year. So I'm surprised we made it this far, honestly.
And it's not like that Portland is suffering that much. No. At the same time, New York City FC, for as bad as their defense had been, I don't know what's happened, but they've really tightened things up. Now you've got McNamara, as I mentioned before, running things in the midfield, getting that ball up to Villa, and Villa taking care of business.
Very, very, very good at what he does. It's a lot of fun to watch. He's one of those guys where you want to go to a game maybe just to see him play. He scored 8 goals this year out of the team's 17. I mean, he's on the same level. He, Fernando Adi, and Sebastian Giovinco all have 8 goals this season so far. So, they're very good. All 3 of those guys are a lot of fun to watch. All right, let's look at this upcoming week for predictions. TFC and NYCFC. That's a fun game. Traditionally, you'd be like, next. But the way the teams are playing right now, Toronto is just lost, but they are still scoring goals in bunches, though, at the same time. But NYCFC, 3-game win streak. Yeah,
and you know what? I have to say, of course, Giovinco, he's still young, so he's playing like he really wants to play. But it is so fun to see David Villa once again to see a player of his caliber come over here and not treat it as a retirement.
No.
He is putting his heart on the line every game. I've got Toronto in this game.
Okay, I am going to try to stay on this NYC hype train for a little bit. I'm going to pick them in this victory. I know Toronto hosts, but I think NYCFC might be a little cheeky in this one and sneak out a victory.
What I'm hoping for is a very high-scoring affair because I got both.
Villa and Giovinco.
Yes.
They're going to score 3 goals and assist on 4 more.
I love it.
Perfect. 7-7 draw. Just call it that. Perfect. The Red Bulls and Chicago, we both have...
New York Red Bulls.
Yes.
It's too hard to give any credit to Chicago as far as a win.
They need more help. They need a lot more help, honestly. Philly and DC United, another Eastern Conference game that traditionally nobody cares about, but DC's been playing fairly well. Philadelphia survived a fairly brutal last 2 games this last week. But we both have Philly winning this game.
I could easily see D.C. once again getting a win out of this. I think Philly's too strong, especially at home.
I agree. Now, according to Alexi Lawless, the biggest rivalry game of the week, NYCFC hosting the New York Red Bulls and the New York Spectacular, the Hudson River Derby, or whatever they're calling it, the Subway Series. If you're a Yankees and Mets fan, NYCFC Red Bulls, I've got a draw in this game because I think the game is just going to fall flat on its face and no one's going to show up.
Well, these games tend to be very exciting, whether it's in Yankee Stadium or Red Bull Arena. And I do think with FC playing on that very narrow pitch, I'm taking the NYCFC. David Villas.
David Villas of the Baby Blues of the Man Cities of the NYCs. Chicago and Houston. I have Houston winning this game. I think Houston sucks slightly less than Chicago does.
They suck enough that it's going to be a draw.
Ah, fun. TFC and Columbus.
This is the Trilinium Cup game.
What?
True story. I got TFC.
Who the hell named it that? Sorry. TFC, I think, is going to win this game, too. FC Dallas and the Revs. I've got the Revs winning this game. I think they're going to be able to ride. What we saw from Kai Kamara in the midfield last week, I think, is only going to carry even more now that they're going to have a full week to practice together, and I think that is going to propel them to a victory.
FCD does struggle on the road, but for some reason I see him winning this one.
Okie doke. Orlando and Montreal. We actually agree on something.
We do.
That I usually hate you for.
We both got a draw on this one.
Yes.
Hey, again, we don't know Orlando's team at all. Montreal, they play well, but then they usually give up a goal or two.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Sporting and RSL. What do you got?
I got a draw on this
You
one.
have a draw on this one. I have Sporting Kansas City taking the victory on this one.
Yeah, I just see these guys again. Will Dom Dwyer score again? Who knows? RSL? Who knows?
Exactly. All right, Seattle and Colorado. I've got Colorado. I still kind of believe the hype that's going on with the Rapids.
Oh, I believe the hype, but I believe that getting a draw in Seattle is almost just. Of course, it's almost just as good of a win. But for a team like Colorado that's finding its form, I'm going with a draw on this one.
Okay, two other MLS games fast. Portland and Vancouver.
I'm staying with Timbers on this one.
Vancouver, I think, is going to ride the hot streak. And then the California Classico, LA, San Jose.
I see what you got. I got LA.
I've got San Jose. I just know how this game has worked in the past. San Jose. Is there Alan Gordon, though? Is the Alan Gordon effect in effect? We'll find out.
Puerto Rico, USA. I got U.S. winning 5-0.
Yep, I saw that. I've got the USA as well taking on that victory. All right, we're going to run.
Scoreline. Give me a scoreline.
3-0.
Okay.
3-0. 3-0. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. Power Rankings and I Believes. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by ShopFutsal.com. Back here on another edition of Two Up Front, presented by ShopFutsal.com. Final segment, the final countdown, Simon. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're so ready.
I am now unmuted,
You're so ready.
Now I'm ready.
You had to control your excitement and take a moment.
You know, Baxter, I just had to say that I think it was only fair that we predict a scoreline in that U.S.-Puerto Rico game because we know the U.S. is going to win. So the only fair prediction is that scoreline.
Okay, fair enough. You said 5-0 and I said 3-0.
You did.
All right. Power rankings very quickly.
Should we just ram through these?
Let's ram through them. Why not? If we had more time, I would say let's spend more time because there's a couple things we could hinder on and linger on a little bit more. But anyway, so we both agree on our number 5s.
We do.
FC Dallas, we both have at number 5. They weren't in our power rankings last week, and now here they are back after a couple weeks off. 2 big victories. They get 6 points out of 2 big Cascadia games. Very much deserve it, I feel like, to be back in the power rankings.
Absolutely.
Now, your number 4 is different than my number 4.
It's interesting. We have the same teams in our power rankings, just in different places. I've got Vancouver at 4 because they haven't looked that great this season, but they did win their last 2 games. So it's kind of the same idea there with FC Dallas. Of course, Vancouver did win in Portland, or not in Portland, but they did win that Cascadia match, which for me has a lot more weight than just any other game.
No, I'd agree with you on that one. Actually, the reason that I have Vancouver in my power rankings at number 2 is because they've actually won their last 3 games.
Oh, last 3 games.
Yes, they've won their last 3 games. Over the last 6, they have not. They won their last 3, but they've won 4 out of their last 6 games. They've drawn 1 and lost 1. So Vancouver is actually my number 2 team. My number 4 is actually the LA Galaxy. Now, they haven't looked horrible, but they've dropped a little bit. They've gotten 12 points out of their last 6 games.
Yeah, but they haven't lost since their second game of the season, and it's not like a huge string of draws.
No.
But it was interesting, as we talked about, to see them go up against the tougher team.
I agree.
But because of what I just said, I have them, the LA Galaxy, as my number 3 team.
Okay. And the only reason I'm going more so off of teams that look hotter right now, I have NYCFC at my 3rd team, which is why Vancouver is at 2, and I dropped LA a little bit because of the amount of how much they've been running around right now.
And I can't believe this, Baxter. I didn't think we'd say this early in their existence. I have New York City FC at my number 2 spot.
Wow, interesting.
But again, 4-game unbeaten streak, and they're putting in the goals. They're looking impressive. They're shored up that defense. I'm interested to see how NYCFC continues to roll along here.
Agreed. And then our number 1 team for both of us is the Colorado Rapids.
Sure is. You can't argue against their record.
2nd week in a row.
Yep.
2nd week in a row. I love it.
I do want...
Yes, Simon. You had something to say.
I was just going to say, I did want to make note that the Red Bulls were number 3 in my rankings last week, and I had to drop them out because they went from a draw. They went from 2 wins to a draw and then to a loss. So anyways, we got to move on here.
We do.
We've got our I Believes.
What do you got for us, Simon?
I've got my I Believe this week is that, there's news came out that Lukaku has a £65 million price tag on him, and his dad said
it's ridiculous.
There's only 2 clubs he's going to go to, Manchester United or Bayern. So I believe that Lukaku will leave Everton, but that he will not sign with either of those 2 teams.
Really? Interesting. Okay.
I could see Manchester United perhaps picking him up. Rooney's getting older. They need a goal scorer, but Bayern's too loaded to need somebody at that price tag.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and then for me, for my I Believe, I'm doing something new this summer, actually. I'm playing in a Euro fantasy league, basically, Euro 2016 fantasy league. And every year you always hear how England underperforms. Well, the roster that they have, I believe that England is going to make it to the semifinals of the Euros. I know, a bit outlandish, but they're going to ride the Jamie Vardy train and the Danny Drinkwater train all the way through.
Well, they did have an incredibly tough group to get out of to get to the Euros.
That's true. That is very true.
He says that sarcastically.
Ha 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 ha. Anyway, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for another exciting edition of Two Up Front. A very special thanks to our friend of the show, Peter Wilt from Chicago NASL, for joining us on the program as well, and just for being here with us as well. We appreciate you guys listening in. Remember, you can find us Fridays 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Sports Radio America, and then on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com. Download the app, download whatever you need to. Listen to us on demand in the shower, going for a walk, even at the soccer field. Why not?
Or check us out on Facebook, 2 Up Front. On Twitter, we are at 2 Up Front Soccer. He is at Baxter Colburn. I am at Simon Provan.
Yes, indeed. We will see you all again next week. He's Simon Provan. I'm Baxter Colburn. With our manager being the one above, we are 2 Up Front.